at 7:16 p.m. Eastern Time at 25 degrees, 15 minutes of Sagittarius and Pisces, respectively. So Mars, the planet number 1, is the planet of action, impulsivity, and drive. And then we have Sagittarius, the mutable fire sign that it's in, which represents curiosity, travel, teaching. Again, if you want more details on what Mars and Sagittarius means, you can watch the video that I did from, exactly a month ago from today, from November 3rd, where I talked about that entire ingress. So that'll give you background on what does that transit mean. And then we have planet number 2, which is Saturn, which represents responsibility, maturity, time, and Pisces, which represents intuition, creativity, compassion. I have put out many, many videos talking about Saturn in Pisces dating back to May. So you can also go to my YouTube channel and watch. You can do the ones on the retrograde or just the ones in general talking about this type of a placement. So content existing on both to get more of a deep breakdown for understanding what's interacting with each other. So what I'm just going to be explaining today is the high level. So keeping in mind what each of those already represent, keeping in mind which areas of your chart they're activating. We may have already talked about it if you attended one of those classes. We have this square, which is 90 degrees from each other. The last time that these two planets squared was November 25th, 2023. So if you want to look back at a reference point, that's the day that you pick. What was coming up around that time? And of course, you look at these different areas. So for this event, for this day, happening on the 8th, going into the 9th, at least for my time zone, because it's happening at the end of the day. For you, it may, again, fall at different time. That's why you want to pay attention to the exact time and where you are living. So we can expect that we have a strong impulse to move things forward, but it's obstructed. And as a result, we get really frustrated and have some pent-up energy. So if this doesn't sound super pleasant and exciting, that's why I'm talking about it. Because Mars and Saturn are what are known as malefic planets. So no planet, quote unquote, is bad, but they have the worst reputation. Sometimes being spontaneous is great, but being really, really impulsive or like hard-headed, like I'm going to do this or I got to start this, it could be the wrong time. So applying that energy in certain situations won't turn out well. And same thing with Saturn. Saturn is about constriction and boundaries and limits, and often is like tough life lessons. And so for both of these energies, it's like, okay, you're on one hand wanting to go, 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 and then this other thing saying, stop, slow down, be responsible. So not only are they separately carrying malefic energies when they're interacting, not the best, and on top of it, it's a square. And squares represent tension. And so it's some sort of obstacle, and we have to learn something from it. So we have three and a half different layers of potential risk factors and frustration. So this is a day that, unlike the Kazemi days where I say, circle the calendar for this date because, yay, this is a really good one, circle the calendar for this one as a warning. Be mentally prepared for this day. Look ahead at what your schedule is. Think accordingly about what areas are being activated. Having patience with yourself, knowing, okay, something might go awry that day. My relationship with progress, and this is also something we've been talking about, actually. We've been talking about this in some of the week ahead readings about this. Hold on, hold the phone. The 8th is Monday, right? I'm pretty sure in the week ahead readings this week, for both of them, I talked about kind of this exact idea, which is like you're trying to do something and then you have to pivot. I did not realize that. Okay, go listen to those collective readings. I think it kind of relates. So if you're kind of preemptively doing the pivot for each of those readings, then I think it will help you get ahead of this, which is nice. If you're not, then it means you're running up into this at the 11th hour on Monday, which is when that week ahead ends. Ah, interesting. Okay. All right. So please let me know which, in this situation, we're talking about 2 houses. So looking at 2515 of Sagittarius and 2515 of Pisces. To keep it more simple, you could just look at 25. If you happen to have something that's right there, it will normally, especially if you're on AstroSeek, it will show the minutes. Not all the apps do. So depending on what you're looking at, you could just look at 15 degrees. And if you have something that has granularity, then pay attention to the 15, because who knows, you could have a planet that's like, it's at 16. So it's off on the other side. You have that exact square. You have Mars and Saturn squared in your chart, close to that degree. Oh my gosh, that's like basically having a natal return of a square. Saturn, Moon, Ascendant. Okay. Yes, the Muriel, like, you would be thinking about if they're close, that's what's important. So are they close in that they are 5 degrees or less away? So are they at like 29 to 25 degrees? If both of them are, if your Saturn, Moon, and Ascendant are between 25, 29 degrees of those respective signs, then yes, they would be picked up in here. That is in range going the opposite way. So if all of them are happening at 22, then you're 3 degrees away from this. So again, this is like a pretty multifaceted transit and alignment. And on top of what I've already explained before, you're having an activation of your Saturn already. So it just means like we're doubling down on what's going on with Saturn energy. Plus, there's emotion behind it, not surprising because we're already frustrated. So now you're being emotionally amplified. So especially watch out for this. And then having the ascendant too is like, it's personal. So I would definitely be on the lookout for this day because it already has enough charged energy. And then you have these 2 other very, very personal pieces of your chart also attached to it that will most likely make it feel even more intense. 2nd and 5th. So it's Mars is in the 2nd house, Saturn is in the 5th house. Then this tension, this wanting to start but being corralled, etc., has to do with your finances, your sense of self-worth, your values, your assets, and play. Having Saturn moving through the 5th house is like, it's the most serious of planets. So I can imagine that would feel particularly stifling, this whole transit dating back to March of 2023. That's like you want to create, but then there's like a focus to it, or that you're being blocked from creating or playing or finding pleasure and experiencing pleasure in your life because, or there's just like an intensity about it. Like I have to schedule the time for this rather than it kind of being organic and flowing. So you have that going on. So maybe it's like, this is a thing that you want to do, but then it's focused in this very intentional certain way or being prevented from doing it. And then this actually relates a lot to what we were talking about, content creation. And then you want to, that folds into how you are making money, 2nd house. So it could be that there's something that you are working on for your different initiatives and for your business that runs into some sort of obstacle that you want it to move forward and then you can't move forward. Maybe you get stuck in the creative process or writing block or like whatever it is, or something that kind of either sets you back or just completely has you stalling. And then we have 9th and 12th, which is learning, spirituality, long distance travel, and 12th, which is And hopefully y'all can see some parallels here. 12th, which is being alone, being in a soul work mindset. Very, they're both deep, but one is deep, extending well outside of yourself, and the other one is going inward in a very deep and intentional way. So again, you can see there's some differences, but things that are related, so they're not completely opposite. There's a thread of connection, but there is a difference, a clear difference to them. So that would mean that you're wanting to move something forward, learning something, signing up for something, traveling somewhere, booking something, understanding a culture, a language, whatever it may be. But it could be that there's some reflection, things that are cropping up with you, some, again, discomfort, very shadow work vibes. Something that is popping up, either that's being elicited by your ability or inability maybe to travel or learn or do something or whatever it is, but there is a attention. And again, I mentioned before the pent up energy, because Mars wants to move forward, and when it's running into a wall and it's being blocked, then it's just like, where's the energy going to go? It can't move forward, so then it's like it can kind of explode outward, it can go back, need to be redirected into something else. So when we run into that obstacle, that's what I was talking about in the week ahead reading. It's now we have to pivot because we can no longer put energy in that specific way because we're being stopped for whatever that reason is. 11th house, Sag, 2nd house, Pisces. Yes, okay. So yeah, so in the opposite of the example that I gave before, but still involving the 2nd house. So you have wanting to move forward with the networking, connection, expansion, etc., being blocked, obstructed in some way by finances, by sense of self-worth, etc. Which I know we've talked about that as like just kind of a theme with some other transits happening too. So this is why it's always interesting when you're looking at these aspect transits, because it not only is it pulling in the specific energy of the transiting planet, but it's linking it with something that's happening in a completely different location. And if you have natal placements, it's linking it with that too. So we have 3 layers going on all at the same time. So when you fold in Neptune and the moon, again, especially emotionally triggering, especially involving concerns about what's real or not real, your sense of reality. So when you're folding that into thinking about your self-worth or thinking about how you connect to or fit into groups, and then you're like, oh, like your mind could wander and go to some places. And then having the sun there as well, then it's like your ego feeling like it's hit. So I would expect as well, this feels, especially if you're already feeling it, kind of not a surprise, I think, just based on the planets involved. But yeah, I would also watch out for this one too, because I would expect that it would stir up a lot.